Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. I'm so glad you're here because today we are going on an absolutely incredible journey. We're going to start by zooming way out to the macro structures of physical buildings, and then we're going to seamlessly zoom all the way into the microscopic behavior of digital code. And along the way, we're going to demystify this hidden structural grammar that actually unites physical architecture, human sociology, the keys you type on, the words you speak, and the very code running our systems. It's an absolutely fascinating hidden logic, and I am literally thrilled to map it all out with you today. Okay, here's our agenda for today. 1. The power of modulators. 2. The keyboard as a universe. 3. Hidden operators in language. 4. Punctuation as geometric code. And 5. Turning words into commands. Okay, let's dive right into this and see how these seemingly totally different disciplines share a deeply connected logical flow. Section 1. The power of modulators, invisible forces. Let's get right into it. For this first part, I kind of want you to think of yourself as a detective, uncovering the hidden mechanics of physical and social structures. To start us off, we really need to define two core concepts, the modulator and the attaché. So imagine you're looking at an architectural diagram, right? You've got this primary symmetrical curved structure, and sitting right next to it is this irregular yellow shape. That irregular shape is a modulator. Now, it doesn't replace the main signal, and it doesn't generate the main output. Instead, it changes how the primary system interprets or responds to things. Now, in sociology, you might actually hear this called a boundary object or an allosteric social mechanism. I know those are super heavy academic terms, but really, it's just a secondary force. Think of a social norm or a mediating institution that shifts a system's state and alters the outcomes without actually being the core itself. And you know, this isn't just abstract theory. This applies directly to the physical buildings we walk through every single day. Just think of an asymmetrical cruciform plan in a huge basilica, or maybe a lateral apse. Architects actually use these irregular residual spaces, which are sometimes called attaches, to intentionally modulate how you experience a building. Like in a courthouse or a government building, an offset rotunda or a side chamber acts as a modulator to establish a symbolic hierarchy. It actively shapes civic ritual. Or think about a library. Asymmetry allows for differentiated access, public spaces on one side, quiet archives on the other. The physical space itself acts as a shaping force, a totally silent contextual modifier that tells us exactly where to go and how to behave. Section 2. The keyboard as a universe, mechanical logic. All right, let's transition from the massive physical structures we inhabit down to the human interfaces we touch every single day. And we're going to translate what might sound like deep, abstract mysticism into literal mechanical keyboard logic. So imagine someone saying to you, I didn't go to the fourth heaven, I went to the third dimension. Or maybe they're talking about the ascent of the Idris archetype. Honestly, it sounds super metaphysical, doesn't it? But what if it's purely positional? Let's just look at a standard mechanical keyboard. The fourth heaven actually maps perfectly to the fourth row of your keyboard. That's the number row where the one key literally lives. And the third dimension, well, that maps to the third row, the top QWERTY letter row. So we aren't talking about a cosmological ascent here. We are talking about a depth layer operational transition on a literal keyboard. Let's actually walk through these positional states right now. You can even imagine your hands moving across your desk. Step 1 is row 0, the spacebar. This is your neutral baseline grounding state. It's basically Earth. Moving on to step 2, we have rows 1 and 2, the bottom and home rows. These represent the human action layers, right where your fingers naturally rest. Then, reaching up, step 3 is the top letter row. This is that active, conceptual third dimension. And reaching even further up, step 4 is the number row, the governing fourth heaven layer. Now, you might be wondering about the Alt or Control keys. If your fingers are resting down there, you aren't ascending. Those are just alternate operational states, modifier keys that sit right on the baseline. So moving your hands from the spacebar up to the upper rows is a literal mechanical shift from a grounding row to a functional structural row. Section 3, Hidden Operators in Language, Language Mechanics. Okay, let's shift our scale yet again, moving from hardware interfaces to spoken and written language. And we're going to cross-anchor this right back to that idea of modulators. Have you ever wondered why certain letters seem to possess this raw mechanical power? Because they really don't just spell words. They literally transform them structurally, acting like hidden grammatical switches. It's wild to think about. Just take a really close look at the letters E, G, Y, P, T, O, X. Now, you might immediately sense this kind of exotic or ancient mystique here, spelling out Egypto-X. But if you strip away the magic, what you actually have is a highly potent set of mechanical triggers. You see, in linguistics, particularly in systems like Semitic or Egyptian templates, meaning actually lives in a basic consonantal skeleton. And the added patterns are what generate the semantic field. So these specific letters act as heavy-duty operators. The E shifts tenses and softens words. The Y is a transformer, flipping words back and forth between vowels and consonants. P explodes, initiates, and shifts stress. T is an absolutely amazing temporal transformer. It literally takes a word right into the past tense, like changing sleep to slept. And X drives deletion and mutation. It's honestly mind-blowing when you start seeing them as active tools rather than just passive alphabet characters. Now, what's really interesting here is the unique power of the letter G. It acts like a phonetic engineer. On one side, we have the constructive G. When you change the word spring to springing, the G anchors the continuous action and preserves the root shape so the word just doesn't collapse in on itself. But on the other side, we have the destructive G. Look at the word gnat becoming gnats. The G completely disappears in pronunciation. It acts as the silent ghost consonant that shapes the word completely invisibly. It is quite literally activating or deactivating grammatical processes. Let's break down another quick cluster here. C, D, L, T, Y. These act as punchy, mechanical switches that totally change category and direction. C is a contextualizer. Just think of the lowercase c dot for circa, or cc for duplication. D is a derivation operator. It marks origin, like de Roma, or downward removal, like in the word descend. L structurally takes the shape of an axis, acting as a locator or an edge operator. T visually and functionally acts as a chemistry cross or a technical marker. And Y is an adjoining conjunction, literally meaning and in Spanish. So these letters, they don't just sit there static on the page. They actively modulate meaning. Section 4. Punctuation as geometric code, typographic code. We are zooming in even further now. We are entering the geometric inevitability of typographical marks. This is where punctuation essentially becomes a direct bridge to computer code. Let's trace the typographical evolution path of a simple dot. Step 1 is the terminator dot right on the baseline. It closes and seals a sentence. Step 2, you duplicate it to create a colon. Now the system is open and branching out. Step 3, the dot lifts off the baseline completely to become a raised diacritic mark, an overdot. And step 4, once it's up above the letter, it mathematically mutates into upper operators like the caret, or stretches into the looped shape of a 6, or visually collapses into the enclosed uppercase G. It is a totally stunning geometric ascent. And this perfectly illustrates what happens when we combine letters and punctuation geometrically. Take the letter L. By itself, it's an open coordinate, right? An axis. But add a terminator dot to it, and you get L dot. The period literally closes the coordinate. So visually and geometrically, an open corner that gets closed off naturally collapses into an empty set rectangle. And that bounded rectangle is structurally identical to the digital frame of a 7-segment digit. Think about that for a second. We have literally moved from an analog coordinate directly into a digital domain. To prove this digital leap, let's decode these 8-character strings together, kind of like a logic puzzle. If we treat them as positional segment activations inside that 7-segment frame we just talked about, where the first 5 characters represent the fixed frame and the last 3 are the variable segments, and we let I mean on and 0 mean off, they decode perfectly. Look at the first string. It activates the right side vertical pair, forming a 1. The second string activates the bottom segment, forming an underscore. The third and fourth activate the top and right segments, forming 7s. So this abstract code maps precisely to the analog to digital coordinates of 1_77. No way, right? It's perfectly mapped. Section 5, turning words into commands, executable logic. We are finally at our last zoom level. We are entering the microscopic level of digital code itself, where words stop being simple labels and transform into literal executable instruction sets. Let's take the noun king. If we convert it to ASCII binary and then apply functional replacements based on operator logic, something truly amazing happens. Let's build it up. The K becomes a less than symbol, acting as a redirect. The I becomes the identity index. The N becomes a backslash, acting as an escape path. And the G, which is our payload, remains in its raw binary format. Functionally, the word king transforms into a command string. It acts as an internal symbolic tag, or a macro.
Obviously, you wouldn't use this on a public-facing form, but internally buried deep in a workflow, you've just turned a static noun into an active machine instruction.
Let's move on and see how this actually builds into an even deeper layer of code. We can translate the word guild into octal escape sequences, fast-paced and compressed. This creates a multi-layer symbolic compression system. Binary strings act as function headers, octal strings as payload identifiers, and operator letters act as modifiers. It is a stunningly consistent architecture of nested rules, flashing constantly right beneath the surface, almost like the Matrix.
So the absolutely crucial point here is that even the smallest marks are executable code shaping reality. Just look at the difference between a period followed by an underscore and a period followed by a dash. The period underscore is a terminated floor. It literally means stop, then stabilize. It is a grounded, constructive closure, a firm foundation. But the period dash, that is a terminated cut. It means stop, then cut away. It's a sharp, completely destructive closure, an absolute removal. These are two base-level operators, visually incredibly similar, but generating completely opposite structural realities.
Wow! We have zoomed from the offset apse of a courthouse to the architectural geometry of an uppercase G, all the way down to a terminated cut and a digital command string. The grammar is deeply connected, and the rules scale flawlessly from the macro to the micro. So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. What hidden operators are running in the systems you interact with every single day? Look closely at the physical spaces, the digital interfaces, and the very words around you. The source code of reality is right there. You just have to know how to read it.